Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video I will be showing you how to crochet this amazing knit look beanie. It's pretty simple pattern and even beginners can do it. I'll be working with this natural amazing material. It's 100% merino wool and it's 50 grams and 125 meters. I will work with the double yarn because I want to have the beanie cozy and warm, and I will work with 6mm crochet hook. Okay, let's get started. Use 6mm crochet hook and double yarn. Okay, let's get started. Start with a slip knot and then foundation chain. The foundation chain determines the height of beanie, so it's up to you how tall you want your beanie to be. Just keep in mind that the beanie needs to be taller because you will be folding up the bottom part. The brim should have about 7 centimeters and I'm going to make 48 chains, and you can make any number of chains. Okay, this is how it looks like, and I'm going to measure the foundation chain. It's 38 centimeters and I have made 48 chains, and I'm making the size of beanie for 1.5 to 3 years old kid. Start in the second chain and make first slip stitch. And we are going to make slip stitches all the way across. So make one slip stitch in each chain all the way across. In my case, I have to make 47 slip stitches in the row. Okay, I am at the end of the row, and I recommend you don't tighten it at all. You have to crochet loosely because we are going to make just slip stitches. Chain one and turn your work. From the next row, we are going to make slip stitches in the back loop only. So start in very first back loop and make first slip stitch. And then continue working one slip stitch in each back loop all the way across, but we will not crochet last 2 stitches, last 2 back loops. Okay, I'm at the end of the row, and how I said we will not crochet last 2 stitches. So this is last slip stitch of this row. Chain one and turn your work, and we are going to crochet back and start in very first back loop and make first slip stitch of the row, and then one slip stitch in each back loop all the way across, but very last slip stitch of this row will go into the stitch, not into the back loop. So continue working one slip stitch in each back loop across. Okay, this is what this looks like, and how I said the very last slip stitch goes into the stitch, because this is the brim part of the beanie and we want to have the straight edge of the brim. At the end of each row, chain one and turn your work. Start in very first back loop and make first slip stitch, and then one slip stitch in each back loop across, but you will not crochet last 2 stitches. So in my case, I made in previous row 45 slip stitches. In this row, I'm going to make 43 slip stitches. Okay, this is the top of the beanie. So chain 1, turn your work and start in very first back loop, make first slip stitch and make 1 slip stitch in each back loop and meet me back at the end of this row. So you can pause the video, continue crocheting and meet me back again at the end of this row. Okay, I'm at the end of the row and this starting tail indicates that this is the brim part of the beanie. So very last slip stitch goes into the stitch. Chain 1, turn and start in very first back loop, make very first slip stitch and make 1 slip stitch back loop only. In my case, I'm going to make 41 slip stitches, so we will not crochet very last stitches again, very last 2 stitches. At the end of the row, you can see I have 2 stitches left, so I will not crochet them. And chain 1, turn your work and make 1 slip stitch in the next 40 back loops in my case, and very last slip stitch goes into the stitch. So continue working 1 slip stitch back loop only. Okay, I'm at the end of the row. Here you have to make last slip stitch into the stitch and then chain 1 and turn your work. Okay, chain 1, turn your work and make 1 slip stitch back loop only and to make 39 slip stitches. In my case, because I'm making the kid size, if you have different count of chains, it will be different. I have 2 stitches left, so now chain 1, turn your work, and you have to start in very first back loop and make first slip stitch, and continue working 1 slip stitch back loop only all the way across, but very last slip stitch goes into the stitch. I'm at the end of the row, chain 1, turn your work, and this is the brim part of the beanie, and then start in very first back loop, make first slip stitch and continue working 1 slip stitch back loop only, and you can meet me back at the end of this row. So pause the video and then meet me back again here. Okay, I have 5 steps and I will make 5 steps in this case. In this case, I mean I'm making the kid size, and continue working 1 slip stitch to the end of this row. So this is last slip stitch, and now we are going to crochet to the end. So now you can see the loop between steps here. So insert your hook into this loop, then into the following back loop in this step. Grab the yarn, pull it through all 3 loops. In next back loop, slip stitch, and then you need to insert your hook into this loop between steps and then into the following back loop and make slip stitch. In next slip stitch and continue working like this to the end. And this pattern, I recommend making a gauge swatch and using it to calculate how many of these steps you will need and how many chain stitches you should make. So you need to focus on counting and measuring, especially if you're making a different size of the beanie or using a different yarn. So it's amazing pattern, it's pretty simple pattern, but you need to focus on counting and measuring of the beanie. Otherwise, I'm preparing a written pattern. So if anyone needs a written pattern that includes all sizes, it will be available soon. It will also include the calculations and everything you need for this project. So I will let you know when the written pattern is done. Okay, I'm nearly at the end of the row and I have to make last slip stitch of this row. Last slip stitch, back loop only. Okay, and this is what it looks like, and this is the first half of a beanie wedge. The beanie will have 4 wedges at the top, and this is the first half of one of them. So the height of the wedge is 32 centimeters in my case, and the width of this wedge is almost 5 centimeters. So it's perfect. I counted well because I need to have the width of the beanie 38 to 40 centimeters. And keep in mind it's a very stretchy pattern. Okay, let's continue working, and we need to make chain 1 at the end of the row, turn your work, start in very first back loop and make first slip stitch and make 1 slip stitch back loop only all the way across. So I have to make 47 slip stitches in this row. And I'm going to make 46 slip stitches back loop only, and 47th slip stitch goes into the stitch. Okay, I'm at the end of the row. At the end of the row, chain 1 and turn your work. Start to make first slip stitch of this row in very first back loop and continue working 1 slip stitch in each back loop. But in my case, I have to count 10 stitches. So you can mark the 10th stitch, and these 10 stitches we will not crochet. So use stitch marker and mark 10th stitch, and we will not crochet these 10 stitches. Okay, I'm at the stitch marker, and this is very last slip stitch of this row. I have 10 stitches left. We will not crochet these 10 stitches. Chain 1, turn your work, and make 1 slip stitch in each back loop all the way across, but very last slip stitch goes into the stitch, because we need to have nice and straight brim, the edge of brim. Okay, I'm at the end of the row, very last slip stitch goes into the stitch, then chain 1, turn your work, and we will continue crocheting slip stitches back loop only, but from this row, we will make 2 more slip stitches in each row. So this is the second half of the wedge. Okay, how I said, we are going to make 2 more slip stitches. So I'm going to finish this row. And now, use this loop between steps. Insert your hook into the loop, then into the following back loop, and finish slip stitch. Finish the slip stitch, and this is 1 extra slip stitch, and you have to make 2 extra slip stitches. So make 1 more slip stitch back loop only. So this is second slip stitch, second extra slip stitch. Okay, now chain 1 and turn your work. So chain 1, turn your work, start in very first back loop and make first slip stitch. Then make 1 slip stitch back loop only all the way across. But at the end of this row is starting tail, so it means it's the brim part of the beanie. So very last slip stitch goes into the stitch. So I'm going to make last slip stitch of this row, then chain 1, turn, and we have to crochet 1 slip stitch in each back loop, but in this row we need to make 2 more slip stitches. So in this row you have to make 2 extra slip stitch again. I'm going to finish the row. I'm going to finish crocheting of this row. So this is last slip stitch of this row, and now insert your hook into this loop between steps and make 1 extra slip stitch. So then insert your hook into the following back loop and finish slip stitch. And you need to make 1 more extra slip stitch, and then chain 1 and turn your work. Okay, chain 1, turn your work, and make 1 slip stitch in each back loop all the way across. So every second row we have to add 2 slip stitches. I hope it's enough understandable for you. Last slip stitch of this row goes into the stitch, so you have to use both loops, not just back loop. And keep in mind you have to crochet loosely. Okay, slip stitches back loop only again, and we have to add 2 more slip stitches in this row. Okay, it will be exactly the same like in previous rows. The adding slip stitches. So use this loop between steps first. Insert your hook into the loop first, and then you can use the following back loop, grab the end, pull it through all 3 loops, finish slip stitch, and make 1 more slip stitch. Chain 1, turn your work, and start in very first back loop, make first slip stitch of this row and continue working 1 slip stitch in each back loop all the way across, but very last slip stitch goes into the stitch and then you will go back. Okay, so I am at the end of the row, at the step, so I'm going to make last slip stitch of the row, and now we need to add 2 more slip stitches. Chain 1, turn, and make 1 slip stitch in each stitch, in each back loop, in each back loop all the way across. At the end of the row, make very last slip stitch into the stitch, then chain 1, turn your work, and crochet back. So pause the video and meet me back again here. Okay, and this is very last step. So we are at the end of the second half of the wedge. So add 2 more slip stitches. Okay, and this is what this looks like. This is the wedge, and you need to make 3 more wedges. So you need to have 4 wedges in total on the top of Beanie, and the width of the wedge is 10 centimeters. So it's perfect. Okay, and now chain 1, turn your work, make 1 slip stitch back loop only all the way across. At the end of the row, you need to make very last slip stitch into the stitch, and you will make first wedge and second wedge and continue working like this until you have all 4 wedges. So you need to keep crocheting until you have the desired width of the beanie. Okay, and this is what this looks like. I have all 4 wedges done. So 3 are in the middle and 2 half of wedges is on both sides. Okay, I'm going to measure it for you. The width of the beanie is 38 centimeters. It's very stretchy pattern. And now I am on the wrong side of the beanie, and I will connect both sides of the beanie on the wrong side. So this is the right side of the beanie. This is what it looks like on the right side of the beanie. So now I'm going to join both sides together with slip stitches. So I am on the wrong side of the beanie, and I will join both sides together with slip stitches and with crochet hook. If you want, you can sew it if it's better for you. So I'm going to make first slip stitch. So I'm going to insert the hook into the stitch, and then I will make a slip stitch, first slip stitch. And now on the side closer to me, I will use back loop only, and on the other side, I will use stitches. And very last slip stitch goes into the stitch. You can cut the yarn and then you need to weave the tail inside a beanie. Now take a new end of the yarn needle, and we have to close the hole on the top of the beanie. So make a stitch by stitch all the way around and keep the starting tail longer. I'm still on the wrong side of the beanie. Pull the yarn and tighten it, and I will make a few more stitches in the same direction all the way around. Okay, and then just make a simple knot from both ends, and you can cut the yarn or you can weave both tails inside the beanie. Okay, and now weave rest of the tails inside the beanie. Okay, and we are at the end of the pattern. I hope you like my beanie. I hope you like the pattern. And if you do, put a thumb up. I will be happy for it. And if you don't subscribe my channel yet, just hit the subscribe button and hit the bell, because you will never miss any of my video. So this is the right side of the beanie. And I'm going to measure it for you. The beanie has 28 centimeters, but the brim part has about 7 centimeters. So the height of beanie is about 21 centimeters. And you can see I weaved the tail on the wrong side. So you need to weave the tail at the brim part on the right side. Okay, thank you very much for watching, and I will look forward at the next tutorial. Have a lovely day. See you soon.